Preface. Different schools have different policies regarding how they offer financial aids to students. A student seeking financial aid from any particular institution will, therefore, do well to stay abreast of information about that particular institution and its regulations regarding financial aid. Each of these schools has different aims regarding how much of student financial needs they are willing to meet. While some schools, like Columbia University, intend to meet 100% of the students' needs financially, some other schools go less. Grants are given to students without repayment. The amount of grant varies based on the level of education and also the complexity of the study work or project. In the case of New York University, for example, grants provided only meet 68% of the student's needs. This means the student may experience budget gap. This same school gives most of its aids to its students in the form of loans, which the student is expected to pay back after graduation. Some conditions also determine how much of the student's needs the school can meet. A student with solid academic performance, for example, can benefit from a higher percentage of financial aid compared to another student not having such performance. Some other schools consider the financial strength of the student or that of his or her parent when offering financial aids. However, a school like Columbia University, mentioned earlier, does not utilize such measure to determine who to give student loan and who not to give. They give their students aids based on merit alone. It translates to the fact that even Bill Gates' son can get student aid based on merit in this school. There are several other schools in the same category. Some of such schools offering their students merit aid are Brown University, Pomona College, Amherst College, Williams College, Princeton University, and Massachusetts Institute of Technology. In calculating merit award, the institutions concerned would consider the percentage discount off tuition. Private colleges offer average tuition discount of 33.5%. This means a student can end up paying only $19,650 if the actual tuition fee is $30,000. The cut represents 33.5% of the actual fee. In public college, on the other hand, the student is given just 15% cut off the actual price. When seeking for school financial aid, the school can give the student verbal assurance, but this is never enough. The best guide a student can have regarding financial aids is the Common Data Set. Each of the schools in the United States has a common data set. It is an amazing document, more or less a treasure trove of statistics on the characteristics valued by the school in its application, retention, freshman class profile, and enrollment. The document will equally show the number of students requiring financial aid from the institution concerned, as well as the number of students that are given. Furthermore, the document reveals information about the percentage of students' needs the institution can meet, how the awards are split between loans and grants, as well as what average package is worth. The student can easily search the major search engines for Common Data Set, specific for any school. The Internet can reveal information about in-house scholarship and college aids for easy access. Such information can equally reveal if a student is qualified for financial aid or not. Some schools, like Baylor University, provide scholarship calculator on their website, which helps the student check eligibility for any particular scholarship program related to the school. Eligibility for any scholarship is usually determined by the class rank of the student as well as his or her ACT or SAT score. In this write-up, the student will be informed about loan basics, the various financial aids options available, and a host of other informative pieces. The reader will be enlightened about financial and processes involving work-study programs, grants, scholarships, and loans. The reader will equally learn how to choose the right institution for best financial aid option, bearing in mind the cost factors. The reader will learn how to have the right attitude towards financial aid to make the debt work for his or her interest. Introduction. Before seeking a loan or financial aid from any institution, an aspiring or existing student should first know what the government says about the loan and student financial aid. One helpful website providing helpful information regarding this is www.studentloans.gov. When on this site, the student will be required to provide PIN to access the information on the site. It must be stated that not all schools provide financial aids. Parents or students need to know those schools that fall into the category of no loan and avoid them if they intend to seek for a student loan. What is financial aid? It is designed to help students and their parents to pay for college. It is a form of financial assistance to the student that covers many or all educational expenses of the student while in college, like transportation, supplies, books, board and room, fees and tuition. The various types of financial aids are: first, loans; second, work study; third, scholarships; fourth, grants. Different institutions provide different forms of financial aids to their students. At times, the financial aids given to a student by a particular institution can cover more than one of the types listed above. Each institution has professional staff members at its financial aid office where the loans are administered and the students are advised on the best type of financial aid for which to apply. These professionals can equally give the student hints on all available financial aids at any particular time. Lesson 1. Tuition Payment Plan and Grants. Tuition Payment Plan. The student is required to register for the present semester before he can sign up for this payment plan. Any student who is inactive and also has not finished paying for the previous semester is not eligible to benefit from the tuition payment plan. Students falling into the second category are rather referred to the collection agency. Students signing up for tuition payment plans are required to pay a non-refundable amount per semester. The plan enables the student to pay for tuition on installment across the duration of the semester. The amount that the student needs to pay at any point in time will be deducted from the particular account he had earlier indicated while signing up. If a student has not finished paying for the previous semester, the leftover amount will be added to the new semester. This means any new payment the student makes in the new semester will first be deducted from the outstanding of the previous semester. Failure to pay the amount at the due date will attract a non-refundable fine. The student is obliged to pay all the installments when they are due once an application for a payment plan has been made. A hold can be placed on the student's account if he fails to complete payment of a previous semester. As a result, the student will not be permitted to benefit from several university services, obtain transcript or register for the subsequent semester. This status quo will prevail until the student clears the outstanding balance. On rare occasions, the student's account may be referred to a collection agency. The student can contact cashiering staff at the campus business office of his university for information about a payment plan and student account. Grants. This form of financial aid is given to students provided such a student has demonstrated provable financial needs. The student is never required to pay back a grant. Federal grants are guaranteed by the government and have stable disbursement amounts. The free application for students' aid, FAFSA, determines if the student is eligible or not. The grants can be given to undergraduate or first-time graduate students. In the latter case, only certain programs are considered. In most instances, federal grants are set aside for students having high financial need. A student can be required to have a given GPA or a particular academic standard before he can be considered for a federal grant. The various grants a student can benefit from are discussed below. First, Federal Pell Grant. It is the most popular of all federal grants for undergraduates without professional or bachelor's degree. At times, a first-time graduate student can also benefit from this grant. It is reserved especially for students whose total family income is less than $20,000. Second, the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. Students that are eligible for the Federal Pell Grant are also qualified for the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. It is reserved for undergraduate students having the greatest outstanding financial needs. The expected family contribution and the particular institution involved are the factors that determine how much a student can receive in the form of a grant. The federal government awards the said amount to the institution, and the school is responsible for disbursing the money to the students. The grant is contributed by both the school and the federal government, with the institution being responsible for 25% of the grant. It must be noted that not all schools participate in this grant program. Other federal grants are: first, the Teacher Education Assistance for College and Higher Education (TEACH) grant program. Second, the Iraq and Afghanistan Service Grant. Lesson 2. Student Loans. A loan is borrowed money, and the student is expected to pay back. The loan must be paid back after the student graduates or drops lower than half-time enrollment. Federal loans are usually subsidized only at the undergraduate level, and that is the best type of loan. The unsubsidized loan may not be as beneficial as a subsidized one, but the former is still preferable to a private student loan. Aside from the federal loan, some states and colleges also have their loan programs. College and state loans are better than private student loans, which are very expensive. The student can spend the loan on any education-related need, like transportation, computers, books, room and board, tuition, and virtually any other college-related expenses. There is a standing law against discharging student loan through bankruptcy. Student loans are of various types in the United States, and they are discussed below. First, federal student loans paid directly to the students. Good examples of this are Perkins and Stafford loans. Provision of these loans is not determined by credit history, since most of the students do not have credit history. Once the student meets all the requirements of the loan program, he is automatically considered. The student is also not required to pay any amount to benefit. A student is given 6 months grace period to apply after graduating or dropping below half-time. Some loans also receive subsidy from the government, like Perkins and Stafford loans. Second, federal loan paid to parents. The limit is higher than the previous type. However, payment starts immediately rather than wait till the student graduates. In this case, the credit history of the parent is put under consideration before the loan is provided. It must also be noted that approval for this type of loan is not automatic. Third, federal student loans paid to parents or students. The student will not have to pay until after graduation. The limits are also higher. Interest starts accruing immediately the loan is given, and it is added to the principal. The interest rate on state or college loan is higher than that of federal loan. Interest on federal loan is determined by the United States Congress. By the United States Congress. The students should first consider federal, state or college loan before ever thinking of a private loan, which should be treated as a last resort. Private student loans. The loans do not come from the government or the college, but from private organizations like finance companies and banks. The terms are not as favorable as federal loans. They also cost more regarding processing fees and interest rate. They should only be considering after all options of other types of loan have been exhausted. Students having private loans are not considered for income-based repayment plans. The payment plans are also less flexible. Furthermore, there are more penalties than in other types of student loan. Private student loans have higher loan limit compared to federal student loans. As a result, the student will not face the problem of budget gap. Private student loan also gives the student 6 months grace or sometimes 12 months grace to start repaying after graduation. The interest rate will still accrue over this period. Additionally, there is no borrower protection attached to this type of student loan. Types of private student loans. Private student loans are 2 different types. They are direct-to-consumer and school-channel private student loans. They are further discussed below. School channel loans. The interest rate is lower, but the processing takes a longer time. Since it is certified by the institution, the school is involved in signing off on the amount being borrowed by the student. The funds are sent to the school, and the school gets the money across to the student. By confirming or certifying the loan, the school is giving assurance that the student will spend the money only for educational expenses. Certification by the school must not be seen to mean recommendation or approval. Neither does it mean the school has any idea of the term and conditions of the loan being given to the student. Direct-to-consumer private loans. This type of private student loans is never certified by the school, since the instituting has no interaction with either the lender or the borrower. It is left for the student to provide the lenders with enrollment verification, and the money is paid directly to the student after approval. The interest rate on this type of private student loan is higher, but the loan can be processed at a faster rate. The loan can even be processed within days in some cases. It is in the best interest of the student not to spend the money for inappropriate purpose or overborrow. These risks are higher since the school is not involved in certifying that the loan will be used strictly for educational purpose or that the amount being borrowed is the right amount for educational needs. Private student loans interests and rates. The Congress is responsible for setting the interest rate for federal loans. On the other hand, the private organizations giving student loans personally set their interest rates. This lack of government intervention leads to a rise in interest rate on private student loans. To make the interest rate look smaller, some private borrowers would ask the students to pay a given amount upfront as fees. The credit history of the applicant can equally determine the interest rate charged. Certain financial indexes, like overhead charges, BBA LIBOR and Wall Street Journal prime rate, can equally determine the interest rate on private student loans. The overhead charges do vary, depending on the applicant's credit history. Origination fees and interest rate is low if the student and his family have good credit history. Many of the lenders do not provide the student with all the details of the private student loans until after the student has submitted a loan application. They are doing this to prevent the students from comparing their costs to those of other lenders. The interest rate can be 6% higher and loan fees can be 9% higher for borrowers with bad credit rating. Private student loan fees. The student is usually required to pay origination fee during private student loan application. This fee can be substantial. The fee can be added to the total amount taken as loan or deducted from the total loan amount. The borrower is given the liberty to determine the one he prefers. Some lenders do not charge fee loans and also demand very low interest rates. The borrower is required to pay the percentage point fee once, but percentage point on the interest is paid over the period of loan repayment. As a result, the interest rate is considered to be more critical than the origination fee. The borrower should demand as a statement of the annual percentage rate, APR, from the lender before signing a promissory note and getting committed to the loan. The APR stands out as the best means of comparing loans having similar repayment terms. Be that as it may, the APR may become less important as a comparison tool if there is difference in repayment terms. Private student loan co-signers. Private student loan lenders usually consider the credit history of the student and the co-borrower or co-signer. The federal student loan, on the other hand, gives loan without recourse to credit history. Students whose parents are financially stable, having too many assets or too much income to qualify for federal student loan, can go for private student loans. Before granting the loan, the lender will first check the credit history of the co-signer. Good credit history will brighten the chance of the student, making it possible to obtain the private student loan. Many international students schooling in the United States are ineligible for federal student loan, but they can find solace in private loans. For that to be possible, they need a United States permanent resident or citizenship to act as a co-signer. No co-signer is required for some international students putting in for top MBA programs and some other graduate programs, since many of these programs have tie-up agreement with private loan providers. Some lenders can also offer co-signer release after the loan has been approved. This means the co-signer is absolved of any financial responsibility for the loan taken by the student. Private student loan terms. The terms of federal student loans are standardized and made public. However, those of private student loans vary from one lender to another. Many of the lenders do not make all the terms known to the student until he is presented with promissory note or contract to sign. As a result, it is somewhat difficult to compare the terms of one lender to another. Students should not be carried away by promises of low interest rate. Instead, they should shop around for those loan providers that provide as many terms as possible up front. While it is good to shop around, students should also be wary of their credit score, since shopping around can impact it negatively. Deferment represents the length of time given to the student after graduation before being required to start paying back the loan. This is one of the terms associated with private student loans, and it varies from one lender to another. Forbearance is yet another term, and it refers to the period of grace given to the borrower to pause payment due to financial difficulty. The Department of Education is not involved in determining these terms for the private lenders. Discharge of student loans. As stated earlier, student loans cannot be discharged through bankruptcy. Be that as it may, some student loans can still be thus discharged if the student shows evidence of undue hardship. It must, however, be stated that this can only occur on very rare occasions. Before a student can discharge student loan debt, he must first initiate an adversary proceeding, which is a different lawsuit in the bankruptcy case, where they explain the required undue hardship. One of the major downsides of this is that many of the students are unable to retain an attorney and pay the litigation costs in adversary proceeding. Different jurisdictions have different undue hardship standards. These standards are difficult to meet, and this makes it very difficult or impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy. It is completely difficult or impossible to discharge a private student loan through bankruptcy, but there is a ray of hope for students that have taken federal loan, which can be discharged administratively for permanent and total disability. Lesson 3. Work-Study Program. This form of financial aid can be given by the individual institution, state or federal government. They make available part-time employment to the student, provided the student is enrolled at least half-time. In this program, the student is permitted to work for up to 20 hours every week while the school is in session, and up to 40 hours each week during breaks and interim periods. The purpose of this program is to help the student to earn money while studying, and the money can be used to offset study costs. It provides the student with jobs funded by the federal government. The jobs can either be on campus or other locations approved by the institution. The student can get employment at on-campus locations like residential halls, athletic department, career center, and student center. Work-Study Program Outline. This program is based on the financial needs of the student. Before a student can qualify, it is imperative that he is first accepted into the program. Not all jobs qualify for this program. The students are paid a minimum of federal government minimum wage during the employment period. The program is designed in such a way that college students in need of money are given priority. Aside from paying the students, the program also encourages the students to engage in community service works. In most instances, the works are related to the course of study of the particular student. Work-study process. The federal government provides the money to the institution, which then sees to the placement and payment of the students for on-campus employment. However, not all courses of study can benefit from this program. The institution is responsible for contacting the federal government, which then provides funding based on the institution's request. The institutions use a statutory formula for determining the particular amount to request as allocation for this program. The amount paid in by the federal government determines how many students can be accommodated for the work-study program in any year. Students that have financial needs are the ones qualified to apply for the said program. Before a student can qualify, he is expected to fill out the free application for Federal Student Aid (FAFSA) form. The institution uses its discretion when allocating the funds to each of the students. The school is responsible for getting job placements for the students. The placement can be either on campus or other locations. The fund provides the institution an opportunity to give something back to the community. One of the guidelines of the work-study program says that minimum of 7% of all the jobs provided to the students must be about helping the community. Some of the jobs include mathematics tutoring, literacy tutoring, and young children reading tutoring. The student can also be employed to perform administrative functions, work in the student centre or library. The number of hours per week allotted depends on the institution. The grade point average of the student may also be used for determining if the student qualifies for the program or not. Qualifying for the work-study program. As hinted earlier, the student is required to apply through the free application for Federal Student Aid (FA/FSA) program before he can qualify for the work-study program. Both graduate and undergraduate students are eligible to apply. Before the application, the student should first check the latest FA/FSA requirements for application. After the student has qualified, the institution will then determine how much money the student will receive. The amount available to each school differs, and the school is responsible for administering the work-study program. Foreign or international students rarely qualify for the work-study program. For a student to qualify, he must be one of the following. First, a U.S. citizen. Second, a parolee, which means the student must be paroled into the country and must have been here for a minimum of a year. Also, the student is required to provide evidence from USCIS to show that he is not staying in the country temporarily. Third, victims of human trafficking, child of a T-visa holder or the T-visa holder. Fourth, conditional entrant. Fifth, Cuban-Haitian entrant. Sixth, asylum granted. Seventh, refugee. Eighth, U.S. permanent resident having an I-551C, I-551 or I-151. Ninth, U.S. national including natives of Swains Island or American Samoa. Applying for the work-study. As stated severally earlier, students need to file the free application for Federal Student Aid (FA/FSA) if they wish to apply for the work-study program. The student must check or mark the option on the FA/SFA application form asking if he desires to be considered for the program. If this option is left unchecked, the student may not be considered for the work-study program. The financial needs of the individual student will be determined by the student's application. A federal, state, or local agency can provide the student with employment. The institution and private organizations also provide employment. If the student is concerned eligible, the amount he will be paid under the work-study program will be listed along with the work-study award. A student can still be considered for the work-study program if he did not indicate his interest in the work-study program on the FA/FSA form. Deadline for program application differs from one school to another. FA/FSA application closes later than work-study program application. Any student desiring to participate in the program should, therefore, apply as early as possible. There will not be any fund available for the program once the fund provided has been exhausted. Students should apply to their school when applying for the work-study program. The individual school has its procedures regarding application for the program. In most institutions, the job is provided on a first-come, first-served basis. This means a student applying after the deadline may not be able to get into the program. Lesson 4. Scholarships. It is awarded based on some factors like financial needs, field of study, leadership, and academic achievement. Like grants, the student also does not need to pay back a scholarship. It can be awarded by external bodies or by the institution. Governments also provide scholarships to students. One of the outstanding institutions for scholarship award is University of Hawaii. They have developed a unique scholarship application program for their students. To make things easy for them, the students seeking for scholarship in the school can use the UH System Common Scholarship application from December the 1st to March the 1st. Via this system, the student can apply for scholarship without stress. Before opening the processing, the student needs to prepare all the necessary documents, essays and personal statements since the application times out after 45 minutes of opening it. The essays can be attached to the application in the form of PDF or Word document. The application can be saved while in the process, and the applicant can continue later. After applying, the applicant cannot make changes again. Students of the University of Hawaii using this system to apply for scholarship are expected to have rounded off application latest by 4 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time on March the 1st. Scholarships vary in value. The value indicates the purpose and financial capability of the organization. The terms used in grant and scholarship are somewhat similar. This does not mean the two mean the same thing. The two have financial need components, but scholarship has some other features that set it apart. These features are discussed below. First, a student can benefit from an academic scholarship if he has a minimum grade point average or has a minimum acceptable score on SAT or ACT. Second, any student applying for an athletic scholarship must have impressive athletic performance. The school uses such a scholarship to recruit talented athletes into the athletic teams of the school. Third, merit scholarship, on the other hand, is based on several criteria like performance in community service, club participation and a specific school subject. Information provided on the FAFSA application and financial need form the basis for giving grant to a student. Types of scholarships. There are many types of scholarships, but the main ones are discussed below. First, merit-based. As its name implies, it is based on the performance of the student in certain abilities like athletic, artistic and academic abilities. Students with impressive records in community service and highly talented in certain extracurricular activities can be given merit scholarships. This type of scholarship can be provided by the college or private organizations, and they can be based on the student's score in standardized tests or his academic achievements. In most cases, the merit scholarship is not paid directly to the student, but paid by the institution on behalf of the student. Second, need-based. Some private organizations offer need-based awards, and they refer to such as scholarships confusingly. These private organizations can also base their award on the FAFSA application of the receiver. Third, student-specific. The student can qualify for this type of scholarship based on many student-specific factors as well as medical history, family history, religion, race and gender of the student. The most common in this category are the minority scholarships. A very good example of a minority scholarship is the Gates Millennium Scholars, awarded by Bill and Melinda Gates. The scholarship is an award for excellent Latino, Asian Pacific Islander American, Native American and African American students that enroll in college. Fourth, career-specific. They are usually awarded by the university or college, and a student can benefit if he plans to study in a particular field. Students that are pursuing a career in high-needs areas, like nursing and education, have easier access to this class of scholarship. The chances of the student are further brightened if he plans or agrees to work in a high-need community. Fifth, college-specific. They are offered by individual universities and colleges to applicants that are highly qualified. The personal and academic performances of the students are the basis for the scholarship award. In some instances, this class of scholarship can have a bond requirement. The student may have to practice in a remote or rural area or be required to work for a specific employer for a given period. If not, the students may have to repay the scholarship. This requirement is usually part of what obtains for students seeking nursing or education scholarships. Such students must be ready to work in remote or rural areas. Good examples of this type of scholarships are scholarships offered by Public Health Service Commissioned Corps, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Commission Corps, Air Force, Maritime Corps, Coast Guard, Navy and Army. Sixth, athletic. Students possessing exceptional skills in sports can benefit from this type of scholarship. The purpose is to recruit the student into the school's sports team. The government provides athletics scholarships in some schools. However, such scholarships will enable the student to represent the country during international competitions. A school of thought thinks it is not in the best interest of the school to award a scholarship for sports in place of intellectual or academic purpose. 7th, brand scholarships. They are provided by companies or brands that want to gain public attention. A very good example of this is the Miss America beauty pageant. 8th, creative contest scholarship. Creative submissions by a student can win him or her a creative contest scholarship. Another name for this class of scholarships is mini-project-based scholarships. The student is required to submit entries that are based on innovative or unique ideas. Scholarship from the locality. Students can equally access scholarship from their locality or regions. They can approach the local authorities, organizations, and institutions for information on this. Such scholarships are less competitive compared to the other types mentioned earlier since the population eligible is smaller. First, guidance counselors. Students can check with a guidance counselor in their schools for reliable resources and information for local scholarships. Second, charitable trusts and non-profit. Many charitable organizations make scholarship programs available to students. They can provide financial aid to a student having genuine need, examples of which are a need for special education and unforeseen family disaster. Third, community foundations. Many regions, cities and counties have local foundations that are dedicated to providing grants and scholarships to organizations and people in that region. Fourth, music teachers. Some music teachers provide free or low-cost lessons to low-income children to enable the latter to access art education. Free music classes are also provided by local non-profit organizations to youths. Fifth, foundations. Scholarships are provided for entrepreneurial endeavors by some foundations in the country. Sixth, trade or labor unions. Many of the major trade unions provide a scholarship for the dependents of their members as well as the members. Seventh, houses of worship. The national or international headquarters of religious organizations can provide scholarships for their members, though the local branches may not have such a program. This is more so if the student plans to study any theology-based course. Eighth, Chamber of Commerce. Some chambers of commerce also give scholarships and grants to students in their local communities. They focus more on students planning to have careers in areas related to public service or business. Some members of the chambers of commerce can also offer such scholarships. Ninth, volunteer organizations. Volunteer organizations can provide a scholarship to students if the area of study of the said student is similar to what the organization represents. The local chapter of an organization decides to provide a scholarship to a student displaying exceptional academic capability. This is more so if the parents or relatives of the student was a member of the organization. 10th, schools. Many of the well-known old schools are capable of providing a scholarship to their students. 11th, old universities also offer scholarships to students if the students are extremely talented but fund-constrained. The student may be required to be among the best in the country or belong to a specific class of students in the institution before he can be considered for such a scholarship. Aside from offering scholarships, many universities also provide students with resources or information about grants, scholarships, and internship opportunities. 12th, PSAT or NMSQT. Students in the United States are permitted to sit for the PSAT or NMSQT test, especially in their high school junior year. The scores of the student in the test can determine their eligibility for National Merit Scholarship Program. Students applying for private scholarships may be required to take PSAT test, which can be used in preparing for the SAT. 13th. Enrichment Centers. Enrichment centers do provide a private scholarship in some countries, including the United States. 14th. Disabilities. Special scholarship awards are provided for students having one form of disability or the other. The scholarships may be intended for a specific disability or any form of disability. Conclusion. In the course of this text, the student has been enlightened about the various types of financial aids available. The various forms of these financial aids have also been discussed, and the student has been informed about how to apply for them. Also, important information about eligibility has been provided. It is certain that only a few families can cover the educational needs of their wards. This means majority will have to depend on any of the financial aids described in this text. Considering this fact, it is very important for every family to fill out the FAFSA. While filling the FAFSA, take note of important questions like expected family contribution, EFC, and others. The EFC is the estimate of the amount you and your family can reasonably pay for your college education. Also, take good note of the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans when applying for education financial aid. With the information provided by the applicant during the FAFSA application, the government or concerned organizations can easily determine which financial aid for which the student qualifies. Any student scared of debts can steer clear of loans and opt for scholarships or grants which do not require repayments. After submitting the FAFSA information, the institution can use the information provided to look for the loan, work-study, grants and scholarship options for which the applicant is qualified. They will then forward the compilation to the student. He can then go through the list provided and choose as many of the options as he wants. As hinted in this text, it is not financially helpful to take loans not needed. Also, students should avoid using the loans for inappropriate purposes. If there is need to take a loan at all, applicants should first consider federal student loans before thinking of private student loans. FAFSA may close later than work-study program application, but that should not give place to procrastination. Application for FAFSA submission closes by June 30th, so applicants should make sure they submit before the deadline. No need to do taxes first before filling the FAFSA form. Financial aids are given on the first-come, first-served basis, as indicated in this text. This is more reason the form should be filled in time. Even though it will not close until June the 30th, one can fill out the FAFSA on January the 1st.